Okay, so if you've ever, found yourself just scrolling endlessly through articles on how to write a book, or maybe just wondered what makes professional writing, well, work. You know how overwhelming all that information can be. It's easy to get lost, right, trying to sift through everything. But what if you could sort of shortcut decades of real-world publishing experience?
Oh, that'd be a huge advantage, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And what's really fascinating about our source material today is how it distills just decades of this incredibly prolific career
Mm-hmm.
into advice you can actually use, not just for the writing itself, the craft, but the actual business side of writing too. So yeah, I guess the question is, what does it really take to actually make a career out of writing?
That's a fantastic question. And it's exactly what we're diving into today. We're doing a deep dive into the insights of Angela Hunt. I mean, a genuine titan in the publishing world, over 165 books, 4 decades in the business. She's pretty much seen it all. So our mission for you, the listener, is to pull out the most practical, maybe surprising, and just invaluable nuggets from her Write Well newsletter. Think of it like a masterclass, yeah? From someone who's really lived it. Angela's got such a unique viewpoint, massive productivity combined with this deep industry knowledge. What a resource.
Absolutely. And she sets the stage right from the get-go with this really powerful quote. She says, "Failure to hit the bullseye is never the fault of the target. To improve your aim, improve yourself." It's a good reminder, isn't it? If your work isn't landing, the focus needs to be on improving your stuff, your craft.
That quote just sets such a clear tone. It puts the power and, yeah, the responsibility right back on us as writers to keep getting better. And Angela jumps straight into practical ways to do that, starting with something that trips up so many writers: adverbs. She asks, how often do good writers use adverbs? And her answer is pretty blunt: Not as often as unpublished writers."
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward when you think about it. An adverb's job is to support a verb, right? But as Angela explains it, really strong writers pick verbs that are so precise,
Mm.
so vivid, they just don't need that extra support. Think about it. Instead of saying, like, "Don't go there," she said angrily, which feels a little flat.
Exactly. You can instantly make it stronger. Instead of, she said angrily, maybe, she slammed the book down. "Don't go there." Much better. Or she glared at him. "Don't go there." Or even, "Don't go there," she said, her words as cool as ice. See how much more alive that feels without a single silly word. And she gives this brilliant editing trick. After your first draft, search for every lay and just replace it with ly in all caps. That way, when you do your second pass, those adverbs basically scream at you from the page. Makes it super easy to spot them and think, okay, can I find a stronger verb here?
It's such a smart method. And this ly trick, it's not just about adverbs, really. It's about making your weaknesses or potential weaknesses really visible so you can tackle them. Kind of like an athlete analyzing their technique, right? Breaking it down. It goes back to that first quote, knowing your target and improving your aim. And it connects directly to another great quote she shares. This one's from Jodi Picoult. "You may not write well every day, but you can always edit a bad page. You can't edit a blank page. Just getting something down, even if it's rough, that's the first step. Gives you something to actually improve."
That's a huge takeaway. Okay, so we've worked on the words, made them sharper, but what happens once they're, ready for the world? Angela often stresses that the next big step is getting those words noticed. And that brings us to the pitch, like the musical idea of perfect pitch. Like she mentions this kid, Oliver, in junior high who could just hear a song and play it instantly.
Right, but for writing, pitch is totally different. No music involved.
Right.
It's all about how you present your book idea, your proposal, to an agent or an editor.
Yeah.
And a good pitch, what they often call an elevator pitch, it's got to be short, complete, kind of provocative, yeah.
Yeah.
Designed to grab their attention right away.
And this is where Angela gives us these amazing templates, seriously practical stuff. For fiction, she says, jot down 7 key things first: your working title, the genre and category, who your protagonist is, make them unique, what their main problem is, and why it's extra tough for this character. Then, their inner conflict or hidden need, any unexpected twists that make your story stand out. And finally, in that last sentence, slip in one of those resonant magic words she talks about, like love, heart, dream, journey, fortune, or destiny. Then you boil all that down into maybe 3 to 5 really concise lines. Keep it simple, keep it brief.
Yeah, and the examples she gives really clarify it. Like The Chicken Who Loved Books. It's a picture book, right? Ages 3 to 8. Protagonist is Little Red, a gutsy hen. Problem: Henry, the boy who brings books, gets hooked on a video game. So Little Red has to get creative to show him books are the key to the chicken streams. Simple, clear, engaging. Or The Tale of Three Trees, another picture book. 3 trees on a mountain have big dreams. Then they get chopped down to spare. But then they realize their lives are touched by one who makes even unexpected dreams come true. It's poignant.
Mm-hmm. And then there's a more complex one for a righteous heart, the story of Rebecca. Fablical historical fiction. It lays out Rebecca's big choice to marry Isaac, her journey finding God, her promise to love all kids equally, then the conflict, that promise versus the truth about her sons, all within this family guided by divine destiny. These really show how you pack a lot into just a few sentences.
And it's so important, as she points out, to know the difference between a pitch and a synopsis. They're not the same thing at all. A pitch is like a teaser trailer. It's advertising copy, basically. Good for the back cover or online sales page. No spoilers. A synopsis, though, that's usually about a page long in a proposal, and it tells everything, beginning, middle, end, all the spoilers. It shows the agent or editor how the story actually develops. Angela even says she often puts her pitch copy right on the title page of her finished manuscripts, labeled suggested back cover copy. She knows marketing will do their own thing, but hey, gives them a starting point.
That's really smart, a proactive move. And for nonfiction pitches, it's a similar kind of strategy, right? You note down the title, genre, who it's for the audience. Then you write what the reader actually gets from the book and convince them they really need it. You might mention a similar book that's already out there, but then you explain how yours will go farther and do more. And again, you wrap it up with one of those magic words: love, heart, dream, journey, fortune, destiny, tying it to the reader's own goals or desires. Like her example. In short, the adoption option will provide prospective adoptive parents with all the tools they need to make their dreams of family a reality. Crystal clear.
Exactly. It shows the pitch isn't just, describing the book. It's strategic. It proves you understand the market, you understand what readers are looking for. It shows you're not just a writer, you're kind of an entrepreneur of your ideas.
That's a really powerful way to frame it, an entrepreneur of ideas. I like that. And speaking of building ideas, Angela then gets into building the actual world your story takes place in. She makes this crucial point. World building isn't just for fantasy or sci-fi. Even in contemporary novels, you need to think about it. If your character lives in, say, a communist country, or they're in prison, or maybe they're autistic, their world is totally different from the average reader's world. It's about WAGs, she calls it, taking your readers somewhere different. And yeah, for fantasy, sci-fi, historical, it's absolutely essential. You have to set it up, illustrate it, without just info dumping.
Right, and she gives this fantastic framework, breaks it down into 4 categories with really insightful questions for each. First, the physical world. What does it look like? What plants and animals are there? Where do people live? Any weird creatures? Pets? What about climate, food, any sacred places or forbidden ones?
Yeah, it's like a complete checklist. So helpful for making worlds feel real. Then there's the emotional world. How do people show emotions? Is it a culture based on fear? What counts as a virtue or a crime? What are families like? How does love work? What's their biggest joy or their biggest fear?
Then the sociopolitical world. Can people vote? Who holds power and how? What jobs matter? Key laws, attitudes towards family, love, sex. How do they pay for things? Are kids valued or seen as burdens? Who are the workers? Who are the bosses? All the societal structures.
And finally, the spiritual world. One God, many gods. What's their creation story? Beliefs about the afterlife. How do they pray? Who is their god or gods? What powers do they have? What happens if you disobey? What are the sort of 10 commandments for this world? And she shows how she used this herself. For her Rebecca and Isaac book, she combined elements, goats, that's physical world, unfallen love in an arranged marriage, emotional, the expectation of having children, sociopolitical, and God's promise to Isaac, spiritual. Putting those together helped her craft the scene where Isaac teaches Rebecca to milk a goat, they laugh, they kiss, they actually fall in love, which makes it believable they could fulfill that promise of children later.
It's a great example. And she really emphasizes that doing this deep work, really understanding your story world, stops you from hitting that dreaded wall when you're plotting. Often when writers get stuck, it's because they haven't fully fleshed out their world or how their characters fit into it. A rich world just gives you so many more options.
That makes total sense. It provides the why behind the what. And speaking of sticking with it, the long game, Angela shares another great quote. This one's anonymous. If you play it safe in life, you've decided you don't want to grow anymore.
It's a powerful thought, isn't it? And Angela connects it beautifully with this analogy about trees.
Yeah.
She draws on Peter Wohllebin's work, The Secret Wisdom of Nature. He explains how the strongest trees, the ones that live the longest, they actually grow really slowly in the shade when they're young, develops really dense, strong wood. The trees that shoot up quickly in full sun, they develop airy wood, rot faster.
It's such a perfect metaphor for a writing career,
Okay.
right? She basically says, don't stress if it takes a while to reach your goals. If you're learning, if you're working at it, you're growing stronger. That overnight success thing usually means years of work nobody saw. I mean, Angela herself has been writing for 42 years. She even talks about writing before computers, on typewriters, retyping whole manuscripts draft after draft. She jokes that's why so many older writers are such amazing typists.
Probably true. And this whole idea of slow, steady improvement, the long game. It reminds me of the story she tells about Kobe Bryant. Apparently when he was 12, he played a whole 25-game season and didn't score a single point. 0. He said he was terrible, but it taught him the importance of a long-term view. He wasn't the most naturally gifted athlete, so he just focused on improving piece by piece over years. But in writing, unlike basketball, you don't always have that obvious feedback loop. You don't always know if you missed the target unless someone tells you. That's where editors or good critique partners come in. You need that external perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And her practical advice ties into that. Start writing smaller things, articles, blog pieces, something you can sell. When you sell it, she says, that's when you know you've scored. If it doesn't sell, assuming you pitched it to the right place, then you know you need to keep practicing, keep aiming. She feels too many writers are just kind of tossing words around without any objective measure of whether they're hitting the mark. We need that judgment, that arbitration. And speaking of words, she often includes a word of the week. The one that fits here is vacuous. It means empty, blank, lacking ideas or intelligence. Comes from the Latin vacuus for empty. You might describe, say, a character with a permanently blank expression as having a vacuous stare,
Yeah.
making sure our writing isn't vacuous, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
making sure it has substance. Which leads us beautifully into Angela's wonderfully honest and funny comparison between the idea of a classy author and the reality of a working writer.
Oh, this section just makes me smile every time. It's so refreshing, so real. It really grounds the whole writing journey. It's definitely not all glamour shots and fancy events. She jokes, classy authors never show their toes in public. Working writers, barefoot whenever possible. Classy authors are always perfectly put together. Working writers might not comb their hair before lunch, probably living in sweats or pajamas. Classy authors never yell. Working writers might yell at their kids, the printer, or the power outage caused by a suicidal squirrel on the power line.
Thought goals.
Yeah, the squirrel anecdote is great. And she contrasts the classy Christian author reading only serious works and the Bible with the working writer who reads comics, checks the bestseller lists, and secretly loves finding grammar mistakes in other people's books. And the food. Classy authors eat elegantly at banquets. Working writers snack constantly, gain 2 pounds per book unless they switch to sugarless gum. Fact chuckles. It's just so relatable. Classy authors have staff, housekeepers, cooks. Working writers, masters of spaghetti, and know all the pizza delivery numbers by heart. Angela shares that back in 1983, she wanted to be that classy author, dreaming of huge book signing lines. But 5 years later, when she actually got the call for her first book contract, the reality hit her the huge responsibility of writing things that could actually impact people's lives. She said she just grinned later when she met a horse named Classy, figuring that was about as classy as she was ever going to get. It's such a humble, powerful take on the real work involved. Okay, so we've talked a lot about what we do as writers, our craft, our mindset, but what about navigating the actual industry, the publishing world we're trying to, get into? Angela shares some really candid truths about how publishers make decisions, starting with something that can be tough for authors, book covers. Publishers sometimes ignore the author's suggestions, even if they asked for input in the first place.
Yeah, that can sting. But she explains why. It's usually because the publisher's own artists and marketing teams genuinely believe they know what will sell best. And honestly, they probably do. They're looking at genre conventions, current market trends, how the cover looks as a tiny thumbnail image online. Their main goal is to sell the book. They just have way more experience in that specific visual marketing arena than most authors.
That makes a lot of sense when you break it down like that. They really do have the book's best interest at heart, commercially speaking, even if it doesn't feel like it at the time. Now, Angela also has this fantastic take on rules in writing. Remember that old song, War, huh, what is it good for? She kind of riffs on that, asking rules, huh, what are they good for?
It's such a great way to frame it. And what's fascinating is how she dives into why these writing rules even exist in the first place. She compares it to kids who go to a strict private school. They know all the rules by heart. But after they graduate, some just toss them all out because they never really grasped the principles behind those rules. So the big question becomes, When is it actually okay to break the writing rules?
Exactly. And her answer is brilliant. She says writing rules aren't there to box you in. They're there to teach you the underlying principles of good writing. They're like training wheels. Show, don't tell exists so the reader feels like they're there experiencing it vicariously. Open with action is there to stop readers getting bored right at the start. Using active verbs generally makes writing cleaner, tighter. Sticking to one point of view per scene avoids confusing the reader, though she notes Dickens broke this, but he took care to make it clear. And adverbs. We avoid them not out of some weird hatred for ALU words, but because hunting for a stronger verb usually leads to better, cleaner prose.
Right. So the key takeaway, she argues, is that once you understand the principle behind the rule, you can break the rule. If, and this is the important part, if the effect you achieve by breaking it is actually stronger or better than the effect you get by following it. And rules change over time anyway because culture changes. Like, old novels might have big blocks of description when a new character walked in. We don't really tolerate that much inaction now, thanks to film and TV. Or how thoughts used to always be italicized, but now with deep POV, it's often folded right into the narrative.
She gives her Rebecca book as an example again. She admits there's quite a bit of telling in it, but she made sure to keep that telling very visual. So her ultimate rule about rules is, any writing rule can be broken if you can explain why to an editor. It's about knowing your craft so well that your choices are deliberate, not accidental. Which brings us back to needing that editor or critique partner, right? Like Kobe needing the basket, you need someone to tell you if your deliberate rule breaking actually worked, if you hit the mark.
It totally reinforces that idea. Knowledge is great, but it's most valuable when you understand it deeply and can apply it effectively. Getting that external feedback, having an arbiter for your work, that's how you really learn and improve in this field. That's how you go from just tossing words around to actually scoring.
Oh.
And speaking of arbiter, that's another word of the week she uses. An arbiter is someone who settles a dispute or has authority, like a judge. It comes from Latin ad meaning to and pater meaning to go to or witness. Angela's example is cute. The rose and the lily had an argument as to whose blossoms were the most beautiful, so they asked a butterfly to be their arbiter.
That's a lovely example. Okay, just a quick funny aside from Angela on etiquette. Is it common for authors to be rude when asked to sign books? Her answer, not usually at an official signing. But yeah, it is rude to interrupt someone when they're eating dinner or deep in conversation or trying to catch a flight. Basic civility matters. And she adds this hilarious, P.S. It is very rude to shove your manuscript beneath the door of a bathroom stall because an editor is inside. Good life advice there.
That chuckles. Definitely good advice. Okay, so finally, Angela talks about something really interesting. Writing with a partner. Collaboration. She's done a lot of it ghostwriting nonfiction collabs, like helping Deanna Favre, Brett Favre's wife, write her story. Angela actually structured that memoir like a novel using plot points and everything, and it hit the New York Times bestseller list. Shows how creative collaboration can be.
Wow. So what does this mean for someone thinking about working with another writer? Angela's got some amazing stories, but also some really crucial advice, right? She warns about potential pitfalls in fiction collaboration. She had one bad experience where the royalty split wasn't fair, the advance wasn't fair, and worse, it was work for hire, meaning she didn't even own the copyright to the book she was pouring her effort into, led to a lot of resentment. Her big lesson there. Anyone can have an idea, but writing a novel is hard work. Collaboration needs to respect that effort fairly, and fiction can be trickier to co-write that way.
Definitely a cautionary tale. But she's also had some truly wonderful collaborations. She worked with Bill Myers on a novella called Then Comes Marriage. It was charming. Bill wrote the groom's point of view, Angela wrote the bride's. Perfect split. And she talks about working with Laurie Copeland on the Heavenly Days series. Sounds like so much fun. They invented this whimsical island with guardian angels. They each took charge of different houses and characters, wrote their parts, then literally pasted the stories together chronologically. And the best part, Angela says, was editing together. They achieved this synergy, she calls it. The combined effect was greater than what either could have done alone.
That sounds like the ideal collaboration. So based on all this, she gives some super critical tips for co-writing fiction. First, get everything in writing. Workload split, royalty split, advance split. Maybe it's not 50-50 if one person's doing more, like editing plus writing could be 60-40. Spell out who pays for expenses, editing, cover design, travel, whatever. Make sure you both commit to deadlines. Copyright needs to be in both names. Decide how your names will appear on the cover or if you'll use a pen name. Figure out your publication plan traditional, agent, self-publish. And who handles marketing, who pays for it. Her bottom line, do not assume anything. Get it all agreed upon up front.
Solid advice. And for nonfiction co-writing, it's similar. Workload clearly defined in the agreement. Who pays expenses? If it's work for hire, the writer typically gets paid half on signing, half on completion, and the copyright belongs to the employer, the person telling the story, usually. And if you're creating a proposal to shop around, the writer should be paid for that work specifically. These are all those nitty-gritty points, as she calls them, really important to sort out before you get swept away by the excitement of the idea itself.
Wow, what a comprehensive look at the writing life. We've really covered a lot, haven't we? From the nuts and bolts of word choice, like banishing adverbs, to crafting killer pitches, building believable worlds, understanding the long game of a writing career, facing industry realities, and even the tricky bits of collaboration. You, the listener, have basically gotten a shortcut to insights drawn from decades of Angela Hunt's incredible experience. Hopefully it gives you a real edge on your own writing journey.
Absolutely. This whole deep dive really prompts the question, I think. What does success in writing actually look like for you personally? And how might some of these insights help you maybe redefine or refine your own path forward?
Yeah, great question. So thinking about Angela Hunt's emphasis on constant improvement, on playing the long game, and on understanding the principles behind the rules, here's a final thought for you to chew on. What's one writing rule you've been maybe rigidly following that you might now feel empowered to look at more critically, maybe even break it, as long as you can clearly explain the principle behind your choice? Keep exploring, keep writing, and keep learning.